I want to speak to you about a new organization called the Eco-Modernist Society of North America. I'm here because we are in the midst of a potentially monumental ecological crisis. It is only through a new environmentalism 2.0 that progress can be made. We believe that our only hope for human advancement and even human survival is through the exponential advance of science in the service of humanity. We stand firmly against the war on science that is predicated on the appeal to nature fallacy, which is the belief that whatever is natural must be good and whatever is unnatural must be bad. This belief has become an impediment to advances in areas such as human health, social progress, and even environmental progress. In the field of medicine, the appeal to nature fallacy has already led to catastrophic outcomes. Resistance to vaccines threatens public health and the lives of children. The unwarranted resistance to GMOs has not only held back the fight against climate change, but it has also hampered our ability to feed the developing world as well. Campaigns against GMOs have also held back efforts to ward off the deadly Aedes aegypti mosquito, which has killed countless millions as a carrier of disease and plagues. The scientific consensus concerning the safety of GMOs is solidly supported in every major scientific organization across the planet. The only thing green about being anti-GMO is the extra cash that is made by overcharging for expensive boutique food. But that won't cut it when it comes to raising crops with accelerating heat stress, droughts, floods, disease, and insect infestations brought on by a hotter planet. It makes no sense to accept the call of the IPCC for decarbonization within the next 12 years and yet reject their conclusion that these goals are impossible without nuclear power, which has proven itself to be the cleanest, safest, and most reliable way of achieving decarbonization. It is the most reliable way to decarbonize simply because the alternatives of weather-dependent power sources are inherently unreliable. And nuclear is the cleanest energy source because it is the only form of energy production that completely encases its waste stream. Super safe, advanced Generation 4 reactors, which will almost completely convert existing nuclear waste to centuries worth of energy, are coming very close to commercialization. In fact, it goes completely against most everything we're led to believe. But nuclear is legitimately the safest form of energy generation according to all the accepted worldwide energy fatality data. But there is one thing that nuclear is not safe for, and that is the fossil fuel industry. The fact of the matter is that the fossil fuel industry has a long history of funding the anti-nuclear movement, along with climate change deniers, to protect their bottom line. Solid science is in dire need of a champion. And that is what eco-modernism is all about. Eco-modernism is a new environmental paradigm which looks to reverse the fear of nuclear power and scientific progress in general. Ecology-based modernism is the most direct way to define it. Eco-modernism as a philosophy is described in the Eco-Modernist Manifesto. We believe humanity should not be rejecting technological progress, but rather separate our impacts from nature through the responsible use of technology and urbanization. Urbanization is an unstoppable worldwide trend and the best solution to many environmental problems. It offers sustainable development for the human population and is a historic antidote to both deforestation and species extinction as humans move away from using wildlife as their protein source. Vertical, urban, high-rise architecture minimizes the use of land, resources, and energy, enabling walkable cities that facilitates the more efficient use of mass public transit as well. It must be emphasized that our support for technological solutions is definitely not about defending industrial polluters, nor does our defense of technology imply that we just need to sit back and let things take care of themselves. To the contrary, we believe that humanity is at a crossroads that severely threatens our future on this planet. We reject the idea of resource limits on many levels. The advance of science has a long history of getting around problems of resource scarcity and will continue to do so. Another reason is that Earth is just one of a multitude of worlds available to explore in our solar system and beyond. comets, and asteroids are untapped reservoirs for raw materials. If we could find a way to thrive in artificial ecosystems off-world, we could use what we learned to help sustain terrestrial ecosystems here on Earth. I hope by now you understand the worthiness of our cause. Ecomodernism is really only a philosophy at this time. I want to talk to you about the necessity of turning it into a movement, which will be part of the larger environmentalist movement. For it is only through our presence and participation that there can be any hope of moving environmentalism in the right direction. Our aim is not to divide the environmental movement, but rather to multiply its numbers with the incorporation of many scientific and educational communities that is working to both build chapters of eco-modernist societies and support our growth worldwide. We aspire to increase our numbers by bringing together the numerous supporters of climate action that have been alienated by mainstream environmentalism's wildly contradictory support for the shutting down of nuclear power plants in the midst of a climate emergency, and welcome them into our ranks. Thank you.
This show itself is going to be a little different. I'm calling it the Eco-Modernist Soapbox, but it's not about ideas and themes so much. It's just talking with each other about nuclear power, about development, about eco-modernism, environmentalism. We're going to have a requirement for membership that you could come on, and that would involve like just a very low $2 revolving donation in order for you to come on the show and talk with us. And by the way, we could really use the funds. If you like what you're seeing, donate. You won't even miss it. You won't even know. It's like less than a cup of coffee. You got to go to ESNA website. E for Eco-Modernist, S for Society, and North and A America, ESNA.earth. It's pretty easy to remember. Just look on your right side, scroll down just a little bit in the right-hand box. Says donate. It's not a gigantic button, but it's easy to see. And just click on that and give us a little money. Subscribe to the Eco-Modernist channel. Also to subscribe to us on Twitter and Facebook, Eco-Modernist Society of North America.
And online at https://ESNA.earth. Welcome to the Eco-Modernist Society of North America. We're a modern urbanist environmental organization with a focus on clean energy, housing density, and the application of technology in medicine and agriculture. We are privileged to bring you speakers with a focus on these and other areas in order to show you the future of a prosperous human civilization which preserves the Earth's wild spaces.
I'll stay on share.
All right. Hello and welcome to the Eco-Modernist channel live. Ooh. There we go. Oh. And no, could you go back to share?
Okay. No problem.
Oh.
Good. I'll just stay there. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. Yeah. Are we back? No. Okay, we are back. Great. Sorry, everyone.
All right.
This is the eco sorry. Let's try again. And now let's do our claps. So sync test. Gabe, give me a clap. In front of the camera. Loud. I didn't hear it. Did you hear it when I did it?
Hang on.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, no.
Well, I heard Carl. I did not hear Gabe.
Okay.
Could you hear my voice? You hear my voice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You hear me?
Let's forget it and go on with the show then. Okay.
All right.
Welcome to the Eco-Modernist channel live. I'm Carl Pauls. I'm here with Gabe Ignetti and Chris Bergen. Today we're without a standard guest, so we're everyone's in summer enjoying their vacation, and we are instead going to talk about the developing news in the world. What is happening in Niger? Niger supplies a lot of uranium to France, and there's a growing conflict there. Gabe, why don't you introduce the topic and let me know when you go to, I'll just see when your slides go full screen, I'll switch us over.
Okay. All right. My slides are full screen.
There we go.
Let me take myself out of the picture though, so I could see them better.
Whatever you need to do, it'll look fine on the broadcast.
Yeah, I know. I just got to get that out of there. All right. So that is, you're right about that, Carl. It's 20% of the uranium in France comes from Niger. It's quite a big amount. And, oh, I see. I can move that over. Got it. All right. Oh, come on. So, there is, and I don't know how much this is in the news because in the the major media, I haven't seen much of it. I don't have really, internet. I mean, cable TV. So, they might be talking about Biden and Hunter Biden and all of that, and I don't know. But from what I understand, not talking about this very much. And this is like it's the possibility of war in Niger disrupting the supply of uranium for France because, again, 20%. So hang on. All right. So there's a coup that took place in Niger. And there, again, of course, in Africa, there's so many coups that take place all the time. And this is this coup is very anti-French. So, there's one thing that we have to understand in all this background. Of course, there's a lot of bad press it got, and I'm not saying these people are angels, who these generals are, but in the West, we look at coups, military coups, as just bad. And that's not always the case. I'm not saying that it's always good to have a coup or even good to have a coup necessarily. But you have right-wing coups, you have left-wing coups, you have populist coups. Sometimes coups are brought on by public pressure. And, when you talk about democracies, it's like a lot of it, I'm editorializing here, but a lot of it is window dressing, like any country in the world where you have a democracy, pretty much, it's like you got to have powerful money interests behind you in order to be how do you say? Usually that's the case. In order to be able to be a viable candidate, unless, of course, you're a celebrity, sometimes you could get away with it, or if you're personally rich, there are exceptions. But when you got your Congress, it's the same kind of thing. So even if the best of presidents wins, money is always in the background. And of course, money, you have a corporate media. So this thing about coups being necessarily all bad is not necessarily true. And this very much is what's going on in Africa. So they're saying, this is from the AP, and they're saying, and I wish I could get my thing out of the way. I had that problem last week. Oh, I got it. Okay. This is from AP. This is the coup that took place in Niger, they're referring to, of course. Some of Niger's neighbors defend the coup. There is even hints at war. It's a warning for Africa. And paradoxically, popular support for recent military coups in Africa, this according to AP, is symptomatic of a new wave of democratic aspirations that is expanding across the continent. An overwhelmingly young population is growing frustrated with the economic conditions. And so trying to get to the next thing here. I hate this crap. Here we go. Now there are other regimes that have coups have previously taken place. Burkina Faso and Mali. Now, Burkina Faso and another military junta led country friendly with Russia, Mali, have taken the unusual steps of declaring that foreign military intervention in neighboring Niger after last week's coup would be considered a declaration of war against them too. And there's a lot of popular support for the coup. These are people like on the street. It says they burnt down they attempted to burn down the French embassy, and they were stopped. So I mean, these it's not something that was and it's not something that was orchestrated. Very anti-French, and the reason why is that the France is really very much a neo-colonialist power. They have, I think, something like 14 countries in West Africa. They are, they have a lot of influence. Now, this is a speech by the ambassador to the United States for the African Union in Washington, Dr. Arikana Chimabori Kwao. I probably screwed that name up bad. On July 19th, where she speaks about French neocolonialism.
When the colonizers were leaving the continent between 1958 and 1961, France did something that was...
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me do that again.
The audio was coming through great, so just go leave it playing on your end, and we'll be able to hear it.
Okay, that's good. Okay. All right.
When the colonizers were leaving the continent between 1958 and 1961, France did something that was just downright terrible. Made the African leaders sign what they call the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. France made the Francophone countries sign the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. Allow me to highlight a few of the items in the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. And I urge all of you to Google it and read it. And if that does not disgust you, I don't know what will. First, the French said, well, you see, we built a few schools, a few roads, a few hospitals, taught you about the fork and knife and sitting on a table and eating with utensils. We're going to call that the colonial debt. And for that, you shall pay to perpetuity. In addition, you will deposit 85% of your bank reserves with the Minister of Finance, the French Minister of Finance. Collectively, the Minister of Finance, the French Minister of Finance will take all your deposits It was 85% back then. It's now down to about 60. The French minister will invest that money in the French stock exchange under the French name. You may or may not know the returns. Today, France is taking out of Africa, Francophone Africa, over $500 billion. Over $500 billion. We, the Africans, the poor countries, we're giving France over $500 billion a year. Year in, year out. And no one is talking about it. The latest figures are saying for every $14 billion that France takes out of Africa, by the time they finish investing it, they're realizing upwards of $300 billion for every $14 billion. So in actuality, France is taking out of Africa trillions of dollars year in, year out. Should any of those countries wish to access some of their own money that they deposited with France, they have to submit their own financial reports for the country. And if approved, they can only access up to 20% of that money as a loan at commercial interest rates. Figure that one out. That is our reality. It gets better. They were also told that if you need any military equipment, you can only purchase it from France. Your military can only be trained by France. That France will have military presence in your own country and can invade you without notice should they feel French interests are being violated. Language of instruction shall be French. All your minerals discovered, yet to be discovered, France has the first right of refusal. All the contracts, big contracts, private and public, French companies have the first right of refusal. And my brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, if you were to go home and run for president, and your first day in office, your chief of staff comes to you and say, oh, by the way, Mr. President, Madam President, before you start, I must read you the do's and don'ts as stipulated by the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. And your chief of staff reads this to you. What power do you have? This is precisely what our colonizers wanted. To leave us in a position that no matter how hard we try, trying to get a leg up is mission impossible.
Did you like or hate?
So, yes, and before I move on, let me just say that as a sidebar, France has a horrible history of colonization. You know, the Haiti today is what it is because they've been paying back debt to France up to the 1960s. Now, what is this debt? Well, what it was that after the Haitian Revolution, the French government told the Haitian government that, okay, you could be free, but you have to repay the slave owners for the loss of the money from their slaves. And they set the bar for the debt so high that it wasn't that Haiti would have to pay more money than they even produced, you know, their annual income at the time. And that debt right up to the 1960s, Haiti is paid. And God, I mean, Haiti is, it's such a hellhole right now because of it. It's just, it's a failed state. But anyhow, getting back to this, we could see the coup protesters in Nigeria shout, "Long live Putin," as the new leader is face called to cede power. And you know, this is you know, this is and down with France. And there is involvement of Russia in Africa through the Wagner Group. The Wagner Group, as we know, is involved in Ukraine, and the Africans don't have a legacy of colonization from Russia, so the people are the people not having that experience. They welcomed the Wagner Group and they welcomed, the Russian involvement. Whether Russia was involved in the coups in the background, that's a question mark. But the Wagner Group is very much act like a bunch of pirates. I mean, they've been in Africa in a lot of countries, and they've been had their own jacked up deals that they've been doing where we'll protect your country with our mercenaries in return for resources, mainly gold. But anyhow, moving on. This is one of the countries that is involved with the coup is Burkina Faso. And this is from this is Burkina Faso's new president condemns imperialism, quotes Che Guevara, and allies with Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Cuba. West African nations also formed close diplomatic ties with all these countries, Iran, and with Russia. And if anybody has any understanding of how things work in the world, when you do that thing, that sort of thing, you are inviting intervention, pretty much. That's the standard MO in the world today. So again, the Niger's ruling junta has asked for help from the Wagner mercenary group, and very much the enemy of my enemy is my friend. A lot of times, countries have to do that. The United States did that with Imperial France when we had our revolution. So, and this article in the NBC News, the Wagner Group, of course, they say is a recipe for chaos. And France's foreign minister, Catherine Colonna, said that the regional threat of force was credible and warned the putschists to take it seriously. Coups are no longer appropriate. It's time to put an end to it, she said. The minister said France supports with firmness and determination ECOWAS's efforts to make sure that core leaders fail, and it called for Bazoum, the president of Niger, former president of Niger, and all members of his government to be freed. And there have been plenty of coups that have taken place, by the way, where France had that were against attempts to break from France in Africa that the French were very silent about. In fact, when they had in Rwanda, when they had the genocide, which is the greatest time and probably the only time that Western military intervention is a good thing, the French did not intervene in a pro-French government that was involved in that genocide. So, the Niger junta has called for the population to watch out for spies, and they said, according to the Hudson Institute, if the junta was to dig in its heels and rally the population around the flag, possibly even arming civilian militias, the intervention could morph into a multifaceted counterinsurgency that ECOWAS would not be prepared to handle. Now, of course, we haven't mentioned what ECOWAS is. Whoops, how'd I do that? I don't know. Give me a second.
Screen again.
Yeah, I'm off screen again. Get back in place. All right. Okay. ECOWAS is basic information from their own website. The Economic Community of African States, that's what it's called. It's a full name. Is a 15-member regional group with a mandate of promoting economic integration in all fields of activity. Member countries are Benin, Burkina Faso, Cape Verde, Cote d'Ivoire, Gambia, Ghana, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mali, Nigeria, Niger, Sierra Leone, Senegal, and Togo. So it's a major war that seems to be brewing because they have threats to, invade. And this is a very serious situation. So that's pretty much the situation that's going on. So I'm going to stop share, which is not easy. All right. I'm trying to stop share here.
Okay.
Got it. So that's pretty much the story. I mean, I don't know if you guys have any comments to make on this or anything, or
I'll get us back on screen properly in just a moment. Pardon everyone, I wasn't prepared for that. Yeah, we'll get used to this. So this is a new system where I'm using a second computer to share the Zoom meeting until I get Zoom ISO to work. And that'll give us, there we go. This will give us
Chris,
the...
Yeah, Chris found the article about the World Bank supporting nuclear power, so you can mention that later as well.
Oh, and I need to make Chris a co-host because he crashed.
Is he back in?
I need to make him a co-host. There we go.
All right.
Welcome back, Chris.
All right. I don't know if Chris heard all of what was going on since he crashed, but so I don't know. Any thoughts?
I crashed early.
Yeah. Did you hear what was going on, or you just got knocked out, Chris?
Yeah. I crashed early and came back. I was just waiting for you to finish. So.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if anybody had anything to say about all of that, but
I've taken notes. Yeah. The crux of the matter is that we're getting, pretty firmly into a multipolar geopolitical situation. I may have spaced out a little bit when it comes to the uranium. And let's review again. How does uranium factor into this geopolitical conflict? Because France has a lot of power over these nations. France's uranium, which powers their society, is coming from these nations.
Mm-hmm.
There's two ways of solving this is, France behaves better or France gets its uranium from somewhere else. And so I think that, in terms of eco-modernists, we can accept that there's multiple solutions to this. There is, France isn't going to be, using their military to suppress the people of Africa. We don't want that as principled people. But in order for them to get their uranium, we're tempted by that. We think that that nuclear energy is a good thing, and then France's ability to power their society should not be restricted by geopolitics. It's very tempting to have that neoliberal take, but the solution is France finds another source of uranium, and we avoid being required to endorse France's actions here. If France got their uranium from seawater, if they had another country supplying it, maybe America, or Canada, then we're in a better neoliberal footing. But if we're not, if we're not trying to avoid the argument, then absolutely France needs to let go of their colonies. They need to who has let go of their colonies in the past? Spain. I think Spain has pretty much let go of their colonies. But where else? Who else in the world has let go of their colonies? Not China, not America, the UK. I think they've let go of their colonies as well. So the UK and Spain, but France, United States, China, Russia are not letting go of their colonies. And so we see this grand geopolitical stages set so that it's going to be the US versus Russia, or the US and France versus Russia and China in Africa. And that is starting now. It's a war over resources. It's a war over who controls production and who controls energy. And we're left with this horrible little fight in front of us. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. Well, the war on resources really has been going on for 4 or 5 centuries, nearly nonstop. Just occasionally it would let up when people were either beaten down too much where they couldn't do any more fighting, or we just happen to have a few years of prosperity through lots of crops and stuff where people didn't feel the need to push very hard. But as far as the uranium angle, I think uranium is a very small cost to the industry, so they could double the price of uranium, and the cost to France's reactors would be 1%, 2%, because it's only 20% of their uranium. I mean, if France was getting 100% of their uranium from Niger, it'd probably be less than 5% increase in total costs if to double the price they're paying for uranium. So it's not a huge deal, shouldn't be a huge deal, but pretty much any group that has fealty to the World Resources Institute or any of the other European or US-centric international organizations, most of them are tacitly involved in this colonialism problem, or have been, and they haven't totally cut those economic ties. So that is an issue. Will remain an issue until we can decide that profit for the sake of profit shouldn't be the goal. And this ties into our stock markets, everything. If that U.S. and European economic systems tied into, it's just how we do things, and we think anything that impedes profit is wrong, even though it affects 180 other countries around the world in a negative way, or thereabouts. So I'm sorry, Gabe has something else to further the discussion, I think.
Yeah, I just a little point of information here. A little extra information. The Niger government has suspended sales of uranium to France. I don't think they want to stop it. I think they just want a fair deal, and the reason why the suspension is going on is because they have the juntas claimed already that France has made a bombing attack against them, and the France is threatening them publicly. So it's not a matter of France can't have or shouldn't have Niger's uranium, but they should have it at a fair price and on a level playing field. So that's really more issue. I just brought that up.
And then we go to the the next best solution is, if France really wants to be able to control their own prices, they need to sort of adopt a new technology, seawater extraction. And so unfortunately, this is going to be very expensive until we get a lot of research into optimizing the process. We've proved it out. We have a commercial price now, but that commercial price for seawater uranium is still very high because it's not yet optimized. So I have hope that conflicts like this will go in the right direction, where we adopt better technology rather than the wrong direction, which is flexing our geopolitical might in order to keep prices down.
Yeah, it's much more clean. It's much more clean than to get it out of seawater than to mine it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm. I was curious, when was ECOWAS formed? Do we know?
ECOWAS you're talking about that
Yeah,
I
West
have it.
African states.
I can tell you in a minute. It's really a trade organization, by the way. They've you know
Hmm.
they've taken a military stand, but it's they were formed, oh wow, let's see.
1975 and then
1975, right.
yeah.
Via
Okay,
the Treaty of
so
Lagos is what
right about the
to be
time,
exact.
right, yeah, right about the time OPEC had been flexing its muscles with oil prices, and that sent shockwaves around the world as far as the financial markets, and so that's so that it's a well-established organization, I guess is what we could say,
Yeah,
and they
yeah, it is.
and if they're working primarily on economic work, financial work between those member states, well, they have agreements with existing governments. And when you have a coup, then that government is no longer active, and you'd like to have that government active because you have ties with them. You have to start a whole new relationship, all new negotiations if there's a different government. And so that's although the Burkina Faso was a member, and they said in Mali, and they said they would throw a fit if anyone tried to restore the previous government. So that must mean that things were now working within their 15-member group, within the West African States group, because groups outside of the region were extracting so much that it was making it untenable for all the members or several members. So I think that's interesting that they said to let the overthrown government stay overthrown, and any intervention would be considered an act of war. That's I think that in itself is a strong statement that something's been out of kilter there for a while. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't this is a sensitive topic when it comes to sort of like your political position. If you are a big fan of, America is the leader of the free world, then this is going to challenge you. And so this is one of those times where I am, I'm pushing back on those ideas that being right about peace and justice in the world doesn't mean always following American example. So what are our leaders going to do? Are they going to support the free people? Is this a just or unjust coup / revolution? We have this lens of history that we look through, and so a lot of coups in the last 2 decades have been really bad, have been really unfortunate, violent, democracy suppressing events. And then we have things like the color revolution in Iran, where the West celebrates it. And this is the narrative that goes back and forth always. If it's a revolution, it's celebrated. It's the Green Revolution in Iran. They're being free. They're exercising their rights, and it's terrible that the governments are shutting them down. And then a coup or a different kind of revolution is cast in a bad light in the West. And so I'm getting very cynical about this pattern repeating itself over and over and over again. And
Right.
so I'm really holding a lot of judgment back at this point. And so just listening and understanding what's going on, where are the levers at play, who's got the resources, who's got the influence. Why is the news telling me that this is a bad coup or a good revolution?
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, it's a power play. It seems it might be a power play between also in the background between Russia and the West, and as
Right.
well. So, but the thing is, you know, I hope that it resolves peacefully. I mean, if there is all this popular support, they could have an election and it could be for the coup leaders, and it could be, something that's observed by the United Nations. So
Hmm.
let's hope this doesn't just spin out of control.
Hmm.
But the there's too much hubris by the major powers. That's just, you know, it just goes on.
Right. I'll throw in a little bit of historical context that I think we haven't totally outgrown. I've been listening as an audiobook. A shout out to LibriVox, if anyone uses LibriVox for uh, audiobooks. But I've been listening to a book by Theodore Roosevelt. So the book's about a century old. It's a collection of speeches he gave. I think this particular speech I'm thinking of, I like a lot of things he's saying in these speeches, but this one just slapped me wrong that I heard last week. Um, he's talking about helping other disadvantaged groups, including people of the Philippines, specifically at that time, a century ago, or more than a century now. But he said that we will go in and we will help them stabilize their government. And by stabilizing, he means teaching them English, teaching them how to use a fork and spoon and knife, like the gal had in the video clip, and and to ruthlessly put down any insurrection or uh, any voices saying that they didn't want us there. And once we had put everything down and people were obeying us properly, then we would teach them to be a great democratic nation like us, is the gist of the. And this was seen as the best way forward for other nations. We have to remake them in our image. We don't know how to remake them in another image. And so that was apparently we haven't outgrown that. That was the prevailing wisdom of 110, 120, 140 years ago. It's what we've done with Puerto Rico. It's what uh, most nations have done in the past. What we did with the Native American Indians, move them again, move them again. We both the U.S. and Canada forced them to go to schools and nearly forget their own languages and traditions. And I don't mind teaching them English. It's great to have a common language and convenient for us in North America that everyone speaks our language, but around the world pretty much. However, yeah, that's we're the we're not the leaders of freedom. We're the leaders of bullying, is what I had. I'm sorry to say, I'm not proud of that, and I wish we could outgrow the bullying and become friends with everyone and give them a helping hand up rather than pushing them down, beating them down, and then only helping them up once they say, "I'll do it the way you want me to." That's
And we'd be better off for it too, economically.
in the long run we would be. In the
Even
in
in
the
the short
short
run,
term,
even in
I
the
don't I
short
don't know about the
term.
short term. We
Yeah,
wouldn't
the
be
reason,
making money off of missiles then, and predator drones and such. I mean, $1 million for a missile.
oh yeah,
It's a lot of money for people who are invested in the market.
yeah. The problem is that the military industrial complex has such a powerful grip, and they're like a vampire. They suck your blood out of the economy. Tell you the truth. So that's why I'm saying that, and that's what's behind a lot of the bullying, a lot of all of that. So it's like special. interests, and they're not the only ones. There's other special interests, the farmers, the pharmaceutical industry, and you could go on, fossil fuel industry and all of that. But you have a lot of this is like vampirism, really. It's not allowing it's just interfering with free trade and development between nations. It's putting up sanctions and all kind of stuff. Like that half the time, more than half the time, are just bullying and nothing less. There's really no real basis for it. And only the people suffer, even if they do have a good case. Sanctions just the people in the countries that suffer, and the American people who suffer, American businesses suffer because we can't sell our products and buy their products, But anyhow.
Well, we're going to end a little early today. I am moving this week. I've got a lot kind of going on. So let me share a story for you.
We like stories.
Yeah. We've got this story, or this is the sort of the story that we've seen shared around, but I'm having trouble getting the full.
Yeah, it's a good news story for a change here today.
Yeah, this is a happy news for us. But it's not everything. It's not. There we go. All right. So here we see that the IAEA has a funding mechanism, and that funding mechanism allows folks to build new nuclear plants. And I was looking for the news story that Gabe was mentioning, and so recent news there. I think there's some kind of new push to get people to contribute to this funding system, because we saw earlier on that the EU gave nuclear a green label. And so this UNECE study showed that nuclear was sustainable and easy, to support environmentally and ecologically. But banks around the world are not contributing to this like we might appreciate if they were contributing to this funding solution. So the answer is, of course, that the IAEA has their own way to loan money to plants, to corporations and governments that want to finance a new nuclear plant. So this is the solution to all of those imperial pressures that are coming from Russia and China, is that we get to fight back with our own Western financing by supporting nuclear energy in Africa, in other places around the world that need energy. And so I'm really happy to see that, we're considering putting more financing into developing nuclear in Africa, especially. So that's if you see another article around this, maybe we can have an edit here and get that into the program. But overall, it's going to be a busy week for me. So, oops, I need to stop the screen share.
We need an extra guy running things in the background.
Yeah, I've got too much going on, but I've got buttons. That's the thing, is that when my buttons are working, I will be able to do this with one hand. So
one hand tied behind your back.
Right, exactly. With one hand tied behind my back. But until then, we'll see a little bit more pink on the screen every once in a while. But yeah, thank you everyone for checking out our program. Thanks for your contributions. And remember, emissions first, peace and justice will follow.
I want to speak to you about
right,
a new
Carl,
organization called the Eco-Modernist Society of North America. I'm here because we are in the midst of a potentially monumental ecological crisis. It is only through a new environmentalism 2.0 that progress can be made. We believe that our only hope for human advancement and even human survival is through the exponential advance of science in the service of humanity. Eco-modernism is a new environmental paradigm which looks to reverse the fear of nuclear power and scientific progress in general. Ecology-based modernism is the most direct way to define it. Eco-modernism as a philosophy is described in the Eco-Modernist Manifesto. We believe humanity should not be rejecting technological progress, but rather separate our impacts from nature through the responsible use of technology and urbanization. Urbanization is an unstoppable worldwide trend and the best solution to many environmental problems. It offers sustainable development for the human population and is a historic antidote to both deforestation and species extinction as humans move away from using wildlife as their protein source. Vertical, urban, high-rise architecture minimizes the use of land, resources, and energy, enabling walkable cities that facilitates the more efficient use of mass public transit as well. It must be emphasized that our support for technological solutions is definitely not about defending industrial polluters, nor does our defense of technology imply that we just need to sit back and let things take care of themselves. To the contrary, we believe that humanity is at a crossroads that severely threatens our future on this planet. I hope by now you understand the worthiness of our cause. Eco-modernism